It's the fourth month in a row that I hit double digits with my books read per month, so let's talk about my July wrap-up. Hello lovely book dragons and welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new here. My name is Joana and I love to talk about books on this channel, specifically fantasy books. Today I want to share with you the 10 books I read in the month of July. It is the fourth month in a row that I get double digits. Don't think it's gonna happen in August, spoiler alert, but let's celebrate because it's an accomplishment. And yeah, I read quite a few good books. It was a month where everything was above 4.5 stars, or like 4.5 stars. I enjoyed a lot of what I read, and I just wanted to share it with you. The first book that I read in the month of July is Mort by Sir Terry Pratchett. This is the first book in the Death series, which is a sub-series in the Discworld books by, of course, Sir Terry Pratchett. Mort follows, no, it doesn't follow death, as you may think. Mort follows Mortimer, who is an apprentice to death. And he starts toying with things, he starts doing weird things, and things go out of whack really fast when Mort gets picked as Death's apprentice. And I was really much looking forward to this book because I heard that, I've said this a million times on my channel, but I've heard that the City Watch books talk more about the societal problems and all of those discussions around society and all what we think about that, and that these books are more philosophical in nature. So I was really much looking forward to getting into Mort because I loved Guards. I have a review of it up here, which is the first book in the City Watch series. And so I thought, I love social commentary, but I love philosophical questioning even more. So I thought, okay, I'm gonna love Mort even more than I love Guards. And actually, I didn't. I enjoyed Mort, but it wasn't at all what I was expecting. I was expecting to follow death, which I think will happen in the second book called Reaper Man, but I'm not sure. So I did enjoy this book. I thought it had some poignant thoughts, and it had some things that were really interesting to see how this kid who was just like becoming Death's apprentice and the things that he was seeing and experiencing, but it wasn't exactly 100% what I was looking for, and it definitely wasn't as good as Guards, at least in my opinion, of course. And as much as I enjoyed it, I gave it 4 stars because it just wasn't exactly what I thought it was going to be, but I have faith that I will enjoy the other books in the Death books a lot more. And yeah, so far I've read 2 Discworld books, and Guards is my favorite, and it took me really by surprise, and I really enjoyed that one. Next up, I read a quick short story, which is The 11th Metal by Brandon Sanderson. This was the June Cosmere Unbounded book club pick. I didn't read it in June, but I did read it in July. It is a very short story in Arcanum Unbounded, where we follow Kelsier before the events of the Final Empire as he's being trained, and we talk about this mysterious 11th metal. So, very short, really enjoyed it again, 4 stars. It's a second time read for me. I really liked it. The next book I read was The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet by Becky Chambers. This is a book where I have a vlog filmed about this book and other books, but it's a collab vlog, and the person I'm collabing with isn't done with their vlog yet. So my vlog will come out later, but all my thoughts are in that vlog, so there will be a vlog where I go more into depth with this book. But basically this is a story of a girl, Rosemary, who joins a crew who is aboard a spaceship, and so she joins this crew on their missions, and we have a very colorful team here of different species, different characters, and it is just there is a plot. Yes, there is a plot. The plot is of them going through space and doing missions, and stuff happens. But for me, this is not a book that you read if you like a plot-driven story. If you always need a plot to drive forward the narrative of the book, I am not positive that you will enjoy this one. This is a very quiet book in the sense where we spend a lot of time with our characters, we spend a lot of time discussing humanity and all of those things, and it isn't boring. It goes by really fast because even though there isn't really a plot, there is stuff happening, but it isn't, I don't know, it just took me by surprise. I have had these books on my shelves for so long, and I honestly thought I was never going to read them. I was going to unhaul them, and then because of that collab video I had to pick it up, and I don't regret it. I gave it 4 stars. I really enjoyed it. I really wanted to continue on, and the audiobook for this one is amazing. I was just so invested with the characters, and I cared about all of them. And I'm very excited to read the sequels, which are companion novels to this. This is where we follow different characters that were already in this story. And I want to know what happens to them. I want to continue on. I want to know. It's just so interesting. It poses the question of the AI, like, what's AI? Can you fall in love with them? What if you put AI in a different, like, what if you had to reset your AI? And you had a relationship with an AI, and what would happen then? And what about, why do we as humans always think that we have to describe things with things that we know? But it's just like a thoughtful book about all of those things, and I just really loved it. So if this sounds up your alley, I think you should pick it up. But if this sounds like boring to you, don't pick it up, because you probably will be bored. I've known people, I think Alan DNF'd this because he thought it was boring, and I could see that happening, absolutely. But I really enjoyed it. Ooh, next up, I read The Alloy of Law by Brandon Sanderson, my first foray into Mistborn Era 2. This is the July book club pick for Cosmere Unbounded, and I read it, and I actually won't be talking too much about it here because I was on a live show for this. So for Era 2, the live shows are not on my channel like they have been until now. We are doing it on Stephanie's channel at Stephanie's Bookverse. I will leave the Alloy of Law live show link down below. It was Sophia and Stephanie and I who talked about this book, and so if you have read it and if you want to hear our thoughts, it's right there. And if you haven't read it and want to hear spoiler-free thoughts, the beginning is spoiler-free, so you can go check it out. All in all, I will say that, of course, this is not Era 1. Era 1 is my favorite trilogy of all time, and I knew this going in, of course. I don't remember who said this in one of their videos, but they said, if I expect to read the same stuff, I will just reread that one book and not just expect other things to be this book. So I had leveled my expectations. A lot of people were saying Era 2 is not as good, watch out, you won't enjoy it, it's not good, it's all of these things. And was Alloy of Law amazing? No. Was it a ton of fun? Was it interesting? Did I have a good time reading it? Absolutely. In this one, we follow two main characters, mainly Wax and Wayne, and we are 300 years after the events of the Hero of Ages, or the end of the Hero of Ages, and we see how the world has progressed. We see how the characters that we followed in Era 1 are now deities and historical figures, and that was one of my favorite things to see, how they talk about Kelsiar, they talk about Vinna, they talk about Ellen and Spook and Breeze and all of those people that were in those books that we read in the trilogy, and how they remember them 300 years later. And 300 years isn't a huge amount of time, and yet you see things where you, as the reader, know that's not at all how these characters were, or that's not at all what happened, and they don't know that because they never met them. So that was one of my favorite aspects. And in this one, we follow mostly kind of like a mystery, because Wax, our main character, he is a lawman, and there's some people that are disappearing and some shady stuff is happening, and he needs to find out who's taking these people away and what is happening. So it was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it. Like I said, I won't talk too much more about it because there is that live show, but yeah, I give it 4 stars. I had a great time. And I will already say that I read Shadows of Self also in July. It wasn't the next book I read, but pretty much I finished Alloy of Law, and I read, on the same day that I finished Alloy of Law, I read half of Shadows of Self in that day. So, Shadows of Self is the second book in Mistborn Era 2. I couldn't stop. After the epilogue of Alloy of Law, I had to pick up Shadows of Self. It was a must. I couldn't not, and I don't regret it. I gave it 4 stars upon reading, but it's more like a 4.5 stars, because this one, I will say that Alloy of Law is kind of like a bridge book between Mistborn Era 1 and Mistborn Era 2. I think that we will have that Shadows of Self is the beginning of Era 2, and Alloy of Law is just a bridge book in between, because we have Bands of Morning, which is the second book, and the third book is coming out next year. So Shadows of Self really felt like this is the beginning of something different, whereas Alloy of Law was really like just a mystery in this world that you already know. Shadows of Self really steps into a different game, and I teared up in this book. I really enjoyed it so much. I thought it was so much better than Alloy of Law already, and yeah, I just had a really good time with it. I won't say much about it because you have to read Alloy of Law first, but I will say that we follow someone in the city who's kind of causing problems for our main characters, and it is a species that we know from Era 1, and that's all I'm gonna say. I'm not gonna say much more. And we will be having a Shadows of Self live show, of course, on Stephanie's channel. We don't have a date yet, but be on the lookout for that. Continuing with the shadow theme, the next book I read was A Shadow in Summer by Daniel Abraham. This is the first book in the Long Press Quartet, which is a series that I'm currently reading, and this book I buddy read with Grace, and we had such a good time buddy reading this one. Now, this book is so hard for me to say what it's about. In this first book, we follow a few main characters. We follow Amat, we follow Liat, we follow Itani, we follow Ota, and we follow Mati. I think I haven't said Mati yet. So we follow those characters. They live in this city where cotton trade is huge. In the city we have like the ruling people. I think they call the Kayem, because they have like shorter versions of them. Yeah, the Kayem, Utkayem, something like that. They so when the king, let's say, dies, when the Kai dies, his sons have to battle to death, and until only one remains, and then that person becomes the next Kai. But if some of the sons say, hey, we don't want to become the Kai, what we want to do is we want to become poets, so they get a brand saying we will never come after the throne and we become poets. And poets, what they do is they kind of take concepts and they give them a human form, and they kind of control this species, this creature called the undead that are made then out of these poems. And like all of these undead have like something particular to them. So in the first book we have Seedless, and his literal name is like removing the part that remains, I think. So you can imagine that in a city where cotton trade is important, this undead is going to be very, very important, and he can make him a lot of money. But it also means that he can do other stuff, like he can help with abortions or things like that, and that's what we follow in this book. There is stuff happening in this city, and it's just like, I always leave every book that I mention in the description of this video because I'm bad with synopsis, especially for this book. I've tried so many times to talk about it and say what it is about. It's a bit complicated. I can't wrap my head around a coherent synopsis for this first book, but I gave it 4 stars. I had a very, very good time reading it, but this one was quite slow. There is literally almost no action in this book. You follow the characters, you follow the politics in the city. So if you like politically heavy books, this one is for you. I absolutely love the book, but I gave it 4 stars because I knew that it could be better. But as you'll see in like a second, I'll just talk about it. I've read also Betrayal in Winter, and that one made me appreciate A Shadow in Summer even more, because I realized that the reason I cared so much about all of the characters in A Betrayal in Winter is because of A Shadow in Summer, because of how much time we spend with these characters. These books spend the lifetime of these characters, so you follow them when they're little, and then you follow them when they're teens in the first one, and in the second book, like 14 years have passed, so they're like in their late 20s, early 30s, and the time you spent getting to know them, getting to care about them in A Shadow in Summer makes it that A Betrayal in Winter is just... A Betrayal in Winter, I gave 5 stars, and I think it's going to be one of my favorite books of the year, unless the rest of the series beats it out. I didn't buddy read this one with Grace because actually by the time you see this, the live show has already happened. I was going to be a part of a live show, and so I couldn't wait for her to read it this month, and I will leave the live show up here. And I also will leave a vlog I did where I attempted a weekly reading vlog, and I was reading A Betrayal in Winter. So you have a lot of my thoughts on there, which I will also leave linked up here. A Betrayal in Winter was amazing. It was just so, so good. We follow some of the characters of book 1, not all of them, but some of them. Like I said, 14-ish years later, and we follow them in another city. So as in the first book, we're in the south of this continent, now we're in the north, and we see what happens when the Kai dies and his sons have to battle it out to death. But we also follow the Kai's daughter, where no one cares about her because she's a girl, she's a woman. What is she gonna do? She can't have power. So she doesn't pose any threat, but she wants power. She wants to be at the top, and it's just so, so good. The book is just, like I said, I will leave live show and vlog up here so you can check it out, and these books are definitely going to be amazing. I am so excited to read An Autumn War, and that one I'm going to buddy read in September with Grace and Ben, 2 of my favorite people. An Autumn War, guys, I think this series is going to be an all-time favorite. Okay, next up, I read Red Country by Joe Abercrombie. I was playing catch-up with his books because of The Wisdom of Crows that's coming out. Unfortunately, this month in August, I probably won't have time to continue with my Abercrombie catch-up, but I did read Red Country by Joe Abercrombie. And this is also a Western, just a little bit like the Wax and Wayne stuff. This is a Western, and it is the last standalone in the world of the First Law. So in Red Country, we follow our main character, Shy, and one day she comes home and someone has completely burned down her farm, taken away her siblings, and her stepfather Lamb, they go on a kind of quest to find them again, and it is a bit of a revenge story, but also more like a getting those people back and crossing this country and meeting with other people, and there's just it's just a fun book. Honestly, it is my least favorite of the standalones. I cannot decide if I preferred the heroes, if I preferred Best of Cold. I think Best of Cold is just so action-packed, but the heroes, the character work in the heroes was amazing. And Red Country, there were some great moments that I really enjoyed. I think it has the most quotable lines of all of the books, or at least of the standalones, but it is my least favorite because, I don't know, I felt less attached to it, but it had, I don't want to say, we have returning characters that I really enjoy. That's all I'm going to say. I really liked it. I gave it 4 stars. I love Joe Abercrombie. He's one of my favorite authors. Next up, I read The Queen of Atolia by Megan Whalen Turner. This one is also for the vlog where I'm talking about Angry Planet, so I won't be talking too much about it here. But this is the second book in the Queen's Thief series, and in this one is mainly political. I mean, I've read a lot of political fantasy, I feel like, recently, and I love it. I love political fantasy. But this one is what happens when the thief is now back in with his queen, and Atolia and Eddis go to war, and you see like the strategies, the battle strategies, what happens, the having hostages, all those, like, you know, all those battle things, all those strategies that come up. And I had a very good time reading it. I thought it was very fun and very interesting to see all the political maneuvering of this book, but it wasn't a favorite, so I gave it 4 stars if I'm not mistaken. I gave it 3.5 stars. Yeah, that feels right. I liked it, but it wasn't my favorite thing ever, but I did have a good time reading it. And the last book that I read in the month of July is one where I don't need to talk much about it because I have 3 different spots where I've talked about it. I will, though, talk about it a little bit here, and that is The Empire of Gold by S.A. Chakraborty. This is the final book in the David Bott trilogy, a new all-time favorite trilogy. This stuck the landing so hard. I basically read this book in one day. I had started it, and then I was reading Betrayal in Winter, I was reading other stuff, and then I paused it, and then I read almost all of it in one day. I read a lot of it on a Saturday, and then I read, I think, like 50 or 60% of it, something like that, ridiculous, on a Sunday. I mentioned this book in the vlog where I also read a Betrayal in Winter, so I will leave it linked up here. I mean, I already have, you can check out that vlog, so you would have my Betrayal in Winter and Empire of Gold thoughts there. Like I said, the David Bott trilogy is one of my all-time favorites trilogy, and this book, for me, it stuck the landing. It was amazing. I got so many things that I wanted, so many things that I didn't know I needed and wanted, and I did get them, and I just love those books so much. In The City of Brass, which is the first book of the series, we follow our main character Nari, and she has a gift for healing people, and she uses that gift to kind of calm them because she's a street urchin and she needs money, so she sometimes invents diseases that aren't there when she can sense them, and she tries to help those people, but most people have nothing at all, and she kind of just cons them out of their money. And one day she is performing a healing ritual for someone when she accidentally summons a djinn who whisks her away to the magical city of David Bott, where she discovers her powers. She discovers a magical land full of djinn and different types of magical beings, and it is just one of the most beautiful series you'll ever read. And I have talked about this one a lot. I have live shows for each one of these books on Vish's channel. So we have one for The City of Brass, for The Kingdom of Copper, and for The Empire of Gold. I will leave all of them in the description of this video. And I had my Worldhoppers debut, which was so much fun, and it was a video, a huge David Bott gush video. So I will leave that one linked down below as well. And if you could check that one out, all the proceeds of those videos go to charity. So if you've read the David Bott trilogy, or if you haven't and you do want to hear us talk a little bit spoiler free, I would urge you to check that one out because, you know, we would be doing something for charity as well. So those are the 10 books I read in the month of July. I had a great reading month, to be honest. 3.5 stars was the lowest rated, which I thought it was 4.5 stars when I was looking at it, but it's 3.5 stars. It was just like a very, very good reading month. I loved finishing the David Bott trilogy. I loved starting Miss Bon Air 2. I loved starting Long Price Quartet. What a great reading month. So let me know in the comments down below what was your favorite book that you read in the month of July. I don't know that I have a favorite. I have so many that I really loved, but I will say it's probably A Betrayal in Winter or The Empire of Gold. Probably The Empire of Gold, but those two I absolutely loved and I gave 5 stars too. So that's going to be it for me today. Thank you guys so much for watching, and until next time, happy reading.